For decades, the skies have been ruled by a rivalry as iconic as any in business. Boeing and Airbus, two giants, each dominating the airspace in different ways. Boeing, with its long-haul heavyweights like the 747, 777, and now the fuel-efficient 787 Dreamliner, had established itself as the undisputed king of the skies. But across the Atlantic, Airbus was determined to rewrite that story. This rivalry wasn't just about aeroplanes. It was about who could claim the future of aviation, who could deliver more for airlines, and who could capture the loyalty of travelers worldwide. And to do that, Airbus knew it needed something revolutionary, something that could stand toe-to-toe with Boeing's Dreamliner and even overshadow its legacy. In the early days of the A350's design, Airbus knew they had to get everything right. This wasn't just a plane, it was their statement to the world. Engineers worked day and night, meticulously crafting each component of the A350. They studied every aspect of the Dreamliner, not to copy it, but to find ways to outdo it. They asked themselves, how could they make the A350 lighter, faster, and more efficient? How could they make it the most desirable aircraft in the skies? They started with the structure. Traditional planes relied heavily on aluminum, but the A350 would be different. Airbus turned to carbon fiber reinforced polymer, a material as strong as it is light. This composite structure would make the A350 one of the lightest and most fuel-efficient aircraft in the world, capable of flying farther with less fuel, a feature airlines couldn't ignore. The wings, too, would be a marvel, with curved tips designed not just for looks, but to reduce drag and improve fuel efficiency. Across the Atlantic, Boeing was watching these developments with growing unease. The Dreamliner had given Boeing a new edge, and they'd grown comfortable, confident even, in their position. But the A350 changed everything. It was more than just a new aircraft. It was Airbus's challenge to Boeing's reign over long-haul routes. If the A350 succeeded, it would threaten Boeing's most lucrative market and force them to confront the possibility of losing their hold on the industry. The pressure was building. Airlines were paying attention too, weighing their options. Would they stick with Boeing, the trusted name, or take a chance on Airbus's ambitious newcomer? Orders for the A350 started rolling in, from British Airways and even Iberia. For each airline that chose the A350, Boeing felt the sting as their dominance was chipped away, one contract at a time. This wasn't just a loss of sales, it was a blow to Boeing's reputation. Each order for the A350 signaled a shift in loyalty, a declaration from airlines that they were willing to invest in Airbus's vision of the future. The A350 was no longer just a competitor, it was a contender for the title Boeing had held for decades. And for Boeing, this was more than just business, it was personal. The airshow floor buzzes with the energy of negotiations, handshakes, and pitches. Representatives from both Boeing and Airbus weave through the crowd, each hoping to secure the next big contract. The stakes are high. For every airline executive leaning toward Airbus, Boeing steps up its game, offering discounts, loyalty incentives, and promises of innovation. But Airbus holds a powerful card. The A350 promises of superior fuel efficiency, advanced technology, and an enhanced passenger experience. For Boeing, these weren't just orders lost, they were a warning. The A350 was capturing the very market that Boeing had fought to control, and it was doing so with a plane that redefined what an aircraft could be. Airbus had positioned the A350 as the future of aviation, and airlines were listening. But Boeing wasn't out of the fight. They had plans, rumors of an upgraded 777X, an aircraft that would boast longer range and even greater capacity. They hoped that this new model could fend off the A350's advances and reclaim their position. However, the road would be difficult. The A350 had not only won contracts, but also captured the hearts of passengers and airlines alike. As the A350 took to the skies, it wasn't just flying, it was challenging Boeing to respond, to innovate, and to confront the reality that their dominance was no longer guaranteed. Airbus had done what many thought impossible. They'd created an aircraft that Boeing truly feared. For Airbus, designing the A350 wasn't just a response to Boeing's Dreamliner. It was a chance to create something extraordinary, something that would push the boundaries of aviation technology and leave an indelible mark on the skies. When Airbus started designing the A350, they knew they couldn't simply follow the conventional approach. They wanted a plane that would be lighter, faster, and more efficient than anything in the sky. So, they turned to a revolutionary material, carbon fiber reinforced polymer. Using this composite material for more than 50% of the plane's structure, Airbus set a new industry standard. Unlike traditional aluminum, carbon fiber is stronger, lighter, and more resistant to corrosion. This meant less weight, reduced maintenance, and a longer longer lifespan, factors that airlines care about deeply. For passengers, this composite material meant something more: comfort. The cabin could be pressurized at a lower altitude, making long-haul flights feel less draining and more pleasant. But the benefits didn't stop there. Then came the wings. Inspired by nature, Airbus crafted wings that mimic the flight patterns of birds. Each wing is designed to adjust its shape to airflow, bending and flexing in response to changing altitudes and speeds. These wings are topped with signature curved wingtips, or winglets, that not only give the plane its distinctive look but serve a crucial purpose: reducing drag. These innovations weren't just about making a plane look good, they were carefully calculated steps to ensure that the A350 would be the most efficient, cost-effective, and environmentally friendly plane in the skies. Powering this aircraft is another marvel of engineering: the Rolls-Royce Trent XWB engines, developed specifically for the A350. Airbus needed an engine that could match the A350's potential, and Rolls-Royce delivered. The Trent XWB is quieter, cleaner, and more fuel-efficient than anything that had come before it. Each engine delivers up to 97,000 pounds of thrust, propelling the A350 across oceans and continents with ease. But what makes these engines particularly special is their efficiency. With advanced turbine blades and an innovative cooling system, the Trent XWB engines consume less fuel while reducing emissions, a feature that aligns with the aviation industry's increasing focus on sustainability. For airlines, this means lower operating costs, and for Airbus, it means a compelling selling point against Boeing's long-haul fleet. The A350 wasn't just about meeting technical requirements, it was about enhancing the flying experience for everyone on board. Inside the cabin, Airbus introduced innovations that would redefine passenger comfort. The A350's cabin is wider than the Dreamliner's, allowing airlines to offer roomier seating configurations. Higher ceilings, larger windows, and enhanced humidity control mean that passengers arrive feeling less fatigued, a significant factor on ultra-long-haul flights. For Boeing, each of these innovations was another reason to be wary. Airbus wasn't just creating a plane, they were crafting an experience. The A350 wasn't merely a response to the Dreamliner, it was a direct challenge to Boeing's reputation as the leader in passenger comfort and airline efficiency. Boeing's leadership knew that the A350 represented a turning point. They had invested heavily in the Dreamliner, and it had been a success. But now, with the A350's advanced materials, fuel-efficient engines, and passenger-friendly cabin, Boeing had a formidable competitor on its hands. As Airbus continued to fine-tune the A350, Boeing's team faced a difficult choice. Should they rush to upgrade the Dreamliner, or should they focus on developing the next model? Either option was costly, but the A350 was making waves, and Boeing couldn't ignore it. Every new feature on the A350 was a challenge to Boeing's dominance. Every advantage Airbus offered to airlines was a reason for Boeing to worry. The A350 wasn't just a plane, it was a statement from Airbus that they were ready to compete and to win. For airlines, choosing a new aircraft isn't a decision made lightly. It involves months, sometimes years, of analysis, projections, and debates. The decision doesn't just affect operations, it defines the airline's identity, efficiency, and profitability for years to come. And so, when Qatar Airways began considering a large fleet renewal, all eyes were on Boeing and Airbus, each eager to win over the Middle Eastern carrier. Qatar Airways was one of Boeing's loyal customers, with a substantial fleet of Dreamliners in its lineup. However, as the executives evaluated their options, the A350 caught their attention. Airbus promised fuel savings, reduced maintenance costs, and the ability to open new long-haul routes thanks to the A350's extended range. For Qatar, these were compelling advantages, and so, despite Boeing's efforts, Qatar placed one of the largest orders for the A350, a deal that shook the industry. For Boeing, Qatar's choice felt like a betrayal. Qatar was a valued customer, and Boeing had worked hard to build that relationship. But the A350's appeal was undeniable. It wasn't just about economics, it was about versatility, range, and the ability to provide a premium experience for passengers, features that Qatar and many other airlines valued deeply. The strategic implications of the A350 were becoming clearer. With each new order, Airbus was positioning itself not just as an alternative competitive, but as the preferred choice for modern, forward-thinking airlines. For every A350 that rolled off the production line, Boeing faced a tougher fight to maintain its market share. But it wasn't only Qatar Airways. Major carriers around the world began taking notice. Singapore Airlines, known for its commitment to luxury and efficiency, ordered the A350, planning to use it on ultra-long-haul routes like Singapore to New York. Singapore Airlines saw the A350's potential to redefine its passengers' experience and cut operational costs on these lengthy journeys. With Airbus's promises of greater range and fuel efficiency, the A350 was the perfect match. These weren't just sales. They were strategic wins that cemented Airbus's position in markets that Boeing once dominated. And with every new airline that chose the A350, Boeing felt the pressure mount. It wasn't just a competition for profits, it was a battle for loyalty and for a place in the future of aviation. In the United States, Delta Airlines joined the growing list of carriers to place an order for the A350. For Delta, the A350 represented an opportunity to modernize its fleet while reducing costs and emissions, a priority as the airline sought to improve its environmental footprint. Across the Atlantic, Lufthansa also placed an order, a signal to the industry that Europe's flagship carrier saw Airbus's design as the future of its long-haul operations. Boeing's leadership realized that the A350's success was a turning point. This wasn't just a matter of competing on price, it was about competing on innovation. The A350's efficiency, range, and cabin comfort were reshaping airlines' expectations, forcing Boeing to rethink its approach. Boeing was left with a choice. Should they lower prices to keep the 787 competitive, or should they develop a new aircraft that could meet the A350 head-on? The stakes were high. Boeing's response would not be easy or immediate. The A350 had taken years of planning, engineering, and testing. Boeing couldn't simply release a new aircraft overnight, but they knew they had to act. The 777X was on the horizon, and it held promise, but it was still years from delivery. In the meantime, the A350 was winning orders, and Airbus was becoming the name associated with efficiency and passenger satisfaction in the long-haul market. For Boeing, it was about pride and about holding on to their position as the leader in aviation. And as Airbus continued to rack up orders, it became clear that the A350 wasn't just a passing trend, it was reshaping the industry, one sale at a time. For Airbus, the A350 was more than a product. It was a symbol of progress, efficiency, and the future of aviation. But in a market dominated by Boeing's legacy, Airbus knew they couldn't rely solely on technical achievements. They needed to make airlines and passengers believe in the A350's promise. This wasn't just a technical competition, it was a psychological game, a battle to win hearts and minds. To win over passengers, Airbus focused on the A350's enhanced cabin experience. It wasn't just about getting from point A to point B, it was about the journey itself. Airbus capitalized on features like larger windows, higher humidity, and lower cabin altitude to create an environment that reduced fatigue and improved passenger comfort. The message was clear. Flying on the A350 was different, better, and designed for the modern traveler. They emphasized the quieter cabin, highlighting how the A350's advanced noise reduction technology created a peaceful atmosphere, even in the middle of a 15-hour flight. This was a new era of long-haul travel, one where passengers arrived at their destination feeling refreshed. The A350 was setting new standards, and Airbus was making sure the world knew it. And then there was the matter of environmental sustainability. With the world increasingly aware of climate change and the aviation industry's environmental impact, Airbus positioned the A350 as the eco-friendly option. The fuel-efficient engines, lightweight materials, and lower emissions meant the A350 could claim a smaller carbon footprint. For eco-conscious passengers and airlines looking to reduce their environmental impact, this was a powerful selling point. Airbus's strategy wasn't just to sell planes, it was to create a movement. Airlines like Singapore Airlines, Qatar Airways, and Cathay Pacific, known for their commitment to luxury and quality, became the faces of the A350. They were proud to showcase it as part of their fleets, linking their brands with the A350's image of comfort, efficiency, and sustainability. For passengers, seeing the A350 on a flight schedule became a mark of quality. It created an association that Boeing couldn't ignore, a subtle shift where travelers began choosing flights based on the aircraft model itself, favoring the A350 for its comfort and reputation. In a short time, the A350 was more than just a plane. It was a brand, and every airline that added it to its fleet was reinforcing that brand. For Boeing, this shift in perception was deeply concerning. They had always been the trusted name in aviation, but now Airbus was threatening that trust. The executives at Boeing understood what was happening. Airbus was rewriting the narrative, shifting the industry's focus from reliability to experience, from technical specs to passenger satisfaction. And Boeing was feeling the pressure. They knew they needed to respond, but how? The Dreamliner had been a breakthrough in its own right, a pioneer in composite materials and fuel efficiency. But as Airbus continued to market the A350 as the future of aviation, Boeing's challenge became not just technical, but emotional. The rivalry between Boeing and Airbus over the A350 and Dreamliner isn't just about sales or technical specifications. It's about shaping the future of aviation, a future increasingly defined by sustainability, efficiency, and passenger expectations. The A350's success had made it clear the world was ready for a new standard, and airlines were demanding aircraft that could meet that standard. At the heart of this future lies a crucial question. How can airlines continue to grow while reducing their environmental footprint? The A350, with its lightweight materials and efficient engines, has set a benchmark for fuel efficiency and lower emissions. But Boeing and Airbus know that this is only the beginning. The race is now on to create the next generation of even more sustainable aircraft.